by the time I joined the Marine Corps, which was in 2000, I had about 2.5 years of like really doing some soul searching, especially I'm not going to school anymore. I'm sleeping in and don't really have a job, like part-time stuff. I mean, just the apex of like just bottom, and just as a young man, just completely lost. I was so overwhelmed on like my trajectory in life, man. And I felt like I let so many people down, more importantly myself.
I was doing an English course, and I don't know how it came up, but it was something to do with like special operations community.
Through high school, I wanted to be a pilot. Top Gun when I was a kid was my favorite movie. I grew up on Air Force bases.
I saw a recruiter. I thought he looked good in those dress blues. He had a nice car, and the rest is kind of history. I said, I want to join.
Just about every male Dell has either served in the service or been in law enforcement, first responder of some sort. You grow up with these, hearing the sea stories and hearing these people and seeing that camaraderie. How do you not want to be a part of that, at least for a while?
It was the early 70s. My family broke apart. So ultimately, I grew up in the Omaha home for boys with my two little brothers. I excelled in sport, and probably due to the instability of my family, I was a do-gooder, followed the rules, and did everything I could to be the antithesis of the streets that we were starting to grow up in. And I excelled with that discipline. I excelled with that framework, and it was something I see consistent in my life ever since. And that is the bedrock of my success, is structure and discipline.
I always wanted to join the Marine Corps. Just read all kinds of books on the Marine Corps and other services, but especially I'd read about Vietnam, and I'd read about Recon Marines or SEALs or Army Special Forces. And something about Marine Recon just stuck out. I was like, that's what I want to do. I'm going to be a Reconnaissance Marine.
Moved in with a buddy of mine, with his family. They had an extra room down in the basement, and he was the first one to kind of talk to me about the Marine Corps, and specifically about recon. And I didn't know anything about it. And, I started like running around with a backpack and a little JanSport with like 25-pound bag in it, or 25-pound plate in it. I thought I was, hard, running like a couple of miles with it, little scrawny kid.
And so I'm researching, and SEALs and Rangers and Delta, and and then I learned about recon, and I found myself saying, like, where do these men come from, right? Like, is there some like place in America where they're bred like a Sparta?
I idealized it always. I grew up with John Rambo. I saw First Blood. I excelled in wrestling and then kickboxing, and studied with China's national team. I became a very high-end kickboxer, a world champion kickboxer. However, I saw a documentary about orphans in Kosovo that had survived Sniper Alley, and shortly after that, President Clinton put out the decree that we're going to fight in Kosovo. So ethically, I thought, if one young man is going to go fight, then I must go do my part.
Growing up in the 80s, it's you're used to Chuck Norris, Delta Force, and all that, Rambo, and so you have this mystique built up into what kind of individuals those are, and I did too. And then I really started reading the requirements and like what it took to do that. I was kind of a fat body because I was a nerd, right? I had already started, running, lifting. Like I dropped like 60 pounds, in like 6 months kind of deal. And then I read the requirements, so I was like, you know what? I think I can do this.
Originally I just wanted to do 4 years and get out, and go on because, but I wanted to check that box just to say, just kind of like my granddad and dad, just wanted to do it.
So I ended up in San Diego, went to boot camp there, signed up to be a grunt as an infantryman. To me, there was nothing else. I wanted to be tough. I wanted to, be with other guys that were going to uplift me. And I wanted, what little I knew, I wanted to be to their caliber. I wanted to grow into that, to be a tough guy, to stand up for myself, because I got picked on so much, man.
And so for me, it was almost a break to go find myself, I guess. And I had never talked to a recruiter or anything. And this is going to sound harsh, but in my mind, that's where the dumb people that had no options go to, right? They just joined the Marine Corps or the military, right? And I really like the underdog concept of the recon community and stuff. And so I researched it, and I called the recruiter up.
I excelled in boot camp. I excelled in School of Infantry. I got meritoriously promoted to Lance Corporal out of SOI. I've really enjoyed being a Marine. My first unit in the fleet they sent me to was 3rd LAR Bravo Company.
And I was 26, joined the Marine Corps as an infantryman, and excelled at boot camp and SOI, honor grad, Ironman, and then was afforded the chance to try out for recon, and that changed my life.
I said I want to be a Recon Marine. That was also not something that I could get into because of the color vision, some other issues. So I kind of had to go a back door just to get to Recon. I had to get into a different MOS. And so I could have probably gone into the grunts, and instead I went into logistics.
I actually made the mistake, I think, at one point when I left the grunts thinking I was going to get out. You're at that 5-year mark, getting ready to what are you going to do with your career? I actually was taking paramedic courses, thinking to go back to be a firefighter, paramedic, and realized the damn Marines had ruined me. I could no longer be a reactive medic. I wanted to be the guy that smacked a bunch of Marines upside the head and said, "Quit throwing rocks at each other." That's when I put in my package for recon.
Boot camp's really difficult. Anybody that says boot camp is not hard, they were not the honor grad, first of all. If you're the honor grad, you take all the punishment and you have all the responsibility.
It was relatively, well, at the time, it was probably like one of the hardest things I'd done because I hadn't done anything, right? But looking back, it was not that hard. It was just do what you're told, play the game, and that was it. So nothing crazy.
I'm not sure I exactly knew what I wanted, but I didn't want to be dominated. So I had to be number one. Now remember, I'm from the streets and from wrestling. I worked the farm, but I never I was not in Boy Scouts. I didn't know how to land nav. I didn't understand terrain. Nebraska's flat. I didn't understand a lot of the field skills, and I just did the very best I could and worked harder than everybody else.
I didn't fit well in the grunts because it's not, it was good. It's the backbone of the Marine Corps, really, but it's too much, how do I say it? What's the best way to put it? It's too much like robotic. Follow the leader, don't ask questions, shut your mouth and do what you're told type thing. And I'm more of like a free thinking kind of guy. Like, give me a little leeway. Let me come up with a better way to do this and make this happen. So I was like, hey, if you come over here and do this recon thing, you can walk point, you can plan your own route if you want to. I'm like, oh, I'm in. Let's go. I don't care what I'm in. Let's do it.
After boot camp, you go to School of Infantry, and there they did a screening. So a bunch of guys from 1st Recon come down, and they run you through, like, you'll do a PFT, then you do a bunch of pool work. And I think we started out with like maybe 90 guys or something like that. And there were really only like 2 or 3 of us that made it at the end.
Recon came through to do the indoctrination. The corporal of the guard was so impressed with my attitude. He talked to Recon. He said, hey, I got a young man. I think he could be good for you. I dominated that freaking indoc, except for the swimming. But I was so fast and so far ahead of everyone when I got to the pool. With the ruck run, with the obstacle course, with the slick run, with the exercises. I was so far ahead. Half an hour before the other Marines were coming through. Some of them were senior sergeants, captains, majors. Everybody in the Marine Corps, if they want to be the man, there's only one show in town, and that's Recon. So there I was, a nobody. I knew nothing. And then I had to go through that swim qual. And at that time, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. I was a second-class swimmer in boot camp. Hardest thing I'd ever done. I'm super lean. I don't know how to swim. I sink like a rock.
When I took the indoc to go there, it was, by the time we got to the pool, I was the only person that left. They had like 5 guys around me by myself, just drowning, like sharking me. They call it sharking, but you take you down and bounce you off the bottom, roll you around, let you come up. But as soon as you come up, the next guy's ready to take you right. So he's just, and you're just getting, it's 30 minutes. You don't know how long it is. And they're just like, the whole time, it's not like it is, in a lot of things nowadays. They're just like, the side's right here, right? And they're just like, just grab the side. That's all you got to do. Just grab the side. I'll buy you pizza. Just grab the side, And you're like, I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. You know, boom, take you back. Then they did a little powwow at the end, I guess, amongst themselves and decided if they actually wanted you or not. And that was kind of that was how it went. You know, and if they did, you're in. And then if they didn't, you're out. You know what I mean?
We were what's called a pipeliner, meaning we went straight boot camp SOI, then straight to ARS or the school. And so we were kind of despised because traditionally the way you get into recon is that you do your time in the fleet, right? So you would go to the infantry, you would go wherever, and then you would petition to try out to then go to recon. And so everybody at the school, they're all corporals, sergeants, staff sergeants, higher ranking individuals. And here I am showing up as PFC, nobody that didn't do my time to earn my right there and stuff. But we started out with, I want to say like 74 guys or something like that. And I think 14 of us graduated, something like that. But it's, you wake up in the morning, you do your PT events, then you get back from chow, and there are already guys that were gone because they failed the PT event. Honestly, that kind of drives you, right? And I'm no superhuman, right? So even at the course, every night I'd lay my head down, and I'd say, I have no idea how I made it through today, but tomorrow I will surely fail. And then you just get up and somehow eke it out the next day. I don't know how I made it through today, but tomorrow I will surely fail. And you just do that day by day, and somehow you make it,
So I had to find just one word, that every morning when I did not want to crawl out of bed, I wanted to just go find a bell and ring it. Any bell would work. I had to focus on that word, and for me it was tenacity. That word, I literally would, every morning I would write it on the inside of my cuff just to remind myself that I will not quit. I won't back down. I actually would sing that song, that old Tom Petty song in my head every road march, everything. I just won't back down.
I'd never ran over really 3 miles. And that first Friday at Recon Battalion, we did like a 10-mile run with a ruck to the beach and a 3,000 meter fin in the ocean. I had never been in the ocean before. I'm just a Montana boy, but I figured it out, right? And I kept up with these guys, and they made me better. I made some of them better. I was a super fast runner, super athletic.
Called my dad, told him I'm going to ARS, Amphibious Reconnaissance School on the East Coast, the original recon school, super hardcore. No frills. We lived in a World War I barracks. At the beginning of class, there was 80 plus of us. The barracks are about twice the size of these barracks. So there was only room for 25 freaking Marines, and there's 80 plus that showed up. So I slept in the head for the first week until we started just weeding out guys. And eventually I got a rack. Had to do every shit detail. Always on guard. Everybody hated me. I was with senior guys that had done a lot of time.
Checked into first recon as a roper, as just a boot, like a young dude, and I was just so excited to be there. I was the only guy for my unit. I was I was on this new path again. It was like kind of like joining the Marine Corps all over again. Something new and fresh, and I just felt like I was in this elite. It was just like getting to the NFL. Like shit. Like I'm here. I am not a Recon Marine yet, but I'm on this path, and I'm like an inch away from it. Right. It's where I met Rudy Reyes, doing backflips with the shirt off from a Humvee and looking exactly how he does now. Still jacked. Like I've never met a man like that. His physique has always been like that, and none of us understand. I think we think he's an alien or something, but
I became a scout sniper and a combat diver, a paratrooper, seer, demolitions, workups, Hearst master, and continuous training. And eventually, in time, I became the fastest swimmer in the unit. I swam from Alcatraz. I turned what I was lacking became a challenge, and so I worked towards it.
In high school, I was working on doing the process to get in the service academy. But of course, by the time that I'd gotten into the pretty deep into the process, 9/11 had happened. War's on. Why would I go spend 4 years at an academy? I wasn't formally accepted or anything, but I had I was on the way. I had the letter of recommendation or nomination, whatever it is, and on my 18th birthday, I skipped school and went to the recruiter's office, and I was just like, hey, I want to sign up.
We spent 3 weeks in Darwin and training with the North Force there at late, and coincidentally, the MEU platoon rolled in, and guess who's the MEU? Guess what Marines come to Lairkia Barracks? The Recon platoon. And it's Rudy, and it's Eric Cucker, and it's these dudes that I didn't know. I'm looking at these guys thinking, damn, they rolling in all jacked with their big old rucks, jungle rucks, and their fins hanging off the back. And I'm like, damn it, that's where I'm supposed to be, with these guys. The Australians took us into the middle of nowhere in the bush in Kakadu National Park. We get there, and we were going to do the practical application portion of our survival course that the Aborigines had been teaching us, all this stuff, how to live off the land. Anyways, the sun was coming up. We were already ready for the day. We're about to kick this thing off, and we hear some Australian voice from way yonder. Oi, get all the Yanks. And so we're like, here it comes. They're going to tell us to do something stupid, get rid of our boots, and we're going to be running around like idiots, being hungry, and for days on end. And I thought it was part of the scenario. They said, no, get all the Yanks. America's been attacked. I'm thinking this is just some sort of training scenario, but no, they're very serious.
I was a grunt from 2000 to 2002. We had fallen out for formation, and half of the platoon, maybe less, fell out for formation. We're kind of looking around at parade rest, where the hell is everybody at? And then you hear, hey, everybody get in here. Hurry up, and you got to watch this. And right when I broke the threshold of the door is when I watched live on the news the second plane hit the tower.
I mean, I wasn't scared. I was ready to do something, I was not one of those that got to go do something right away. We had some units that were deployed to Afghanistan, and they did some quick hits, but it kind of drove a lot of us crazy, right? Because we just got attacked. We really didn't know who probably attacked us. And, here we are, somewhat trained, ready to go, ready to fight, ready to die for our country. And, we're almost sitting on the sidelines.
And so we had this somber 5.5 hour ride back to Darwin, not knowing anything. I mean, they had one sat phone that they had set up, and that's the word they got, but they didn't really know either. So we, a lot on our mind, and you think, wow, we're forward deployed already. Is this the beginning of World War III? We didn't know what was up, and I'm like, ooh, I'm thinking about history, the guys at the beginning of the war, you're lucky to make it through the whole thing, but all right, here we go. So we got back to Darwin and then found out what happened, and we couldn't get a flight out of Darwin for days. And we finally got on a C-130. But we made good use of that time. Go to the bar. This might be, might be going to combat. That whole kind of baloney. Trying to pick up on the ladies. Ridiculous.
And the whole day just rapidly progressed and to gas max. They locked the base down at Camp Pendleton, California, where it was at. And they changed. The Marine Corps changed. Our military changed. America changed. The mindset changed overnight. The threat, we weren't safe anymore. So it struck at home.
Those of us that had been deploying overseas, especially to Jordan, Saudi Arabia, all these places, we had seen this coming to some degree. I mean, first time I had heard of bin Laden was actually 1996 when we were over there. I mean, this was not, you could see the hate and discontent from certain people over there, and it was just a matter of time. I mean, World Trade Center wasn't the first time it had an issue.
The Marine Corps was small. Recon was super small. We only had 3 platoons there. Shawn Patrick, you see me standing by all the time, the older cat with the freaking beard. He fought in Somalia. He was my team leader at the unit. He taught me everything. He's from the country, North Carolina. He's so hard. He's so smart. He's so humble.
We went on another MEU in August of 2001. We went to Australia, Darwin, Australia, and we were training with the Australian guys there. That's when we were there on 9/11, right? It was dark. It was nighttime over there, morning here, and all of a sudden, people out on the town, and everybody starts coming back, and we see people walking, and we're like, "What's going on?"
We were in a bar drinking because it was 9 at night there in Darwin, and Shore Patrol came and started getting everybody back to ship, the Navy Shore Patrol guys, and nobody knew what was going on. So we all finally get back to ship, and there's machine gun nests now set up around the ship. It's a lot harder stance than we're used to when we get back to ship. We get back on ship to see the second tower fall. And then we immediately start getting intel briefs, and we pulled anchor that night and immediately set sail to Pakistan.
Went out to sea, watched the first cruise missiles get shot in Afghanistan. You know, that was cool. And then we went into Pakistan to go secure a search and rescue airfield and set that up, right? Brought the Air Force in because they got to bring their, you know, their air conditioner comes before their weapons, you know. So we had to do all that. We kind of just secured it for them so they could get all their stuff in. Packed another ruck for long term this time. We're like, all right, we're going into Afghanistan now, all right.
There was a couple hundred of us in Afghanistan at the time, you know. Honestly, we were where everybody in the entire military wanted to be at that point in time.
We were the recon platoon, so we started running patrols right away, like going out and doing stuff. And then my team ended up going to Kandahar and securing the Kandahar airfield. We were getting geared up to go to the mountains. I forget what they're called. Where Bin Laden, they thought Bin Laden was, you know. And then all of a sudden they just turned us off and said, we're not going to do that now. You know, I don't know why we didn't. I don't know what the strategic or political decisions were going on behind the scenes. I was just out there, you know, a pawn in the game of life.
We still didn't really quite understand, you know, that we were in it for the long haul. I think most of us assumed it was going to be a small thing, kind of like Somalia or Kosovo or whatever, where there was a core group of guys that did that, but it was just a one-time thing, and then nothing really happened major.
And then there we were, Shawn Patrick, myself, and Ray Person on the ship when the towers were hit. So I went straight into fight to Pakistan and Afghanistan, and we came back blooded, you know, locating and closing with and destroying the enemy, utilizing our close air support and our sniper capacities and doing long-range reconnaissance. And I felt lucky to be alive.
And to get this right, you know, the Marines, it's not to kiss babies, it's not to wear dress blues, it's your job, for lack of better words, is to canoe a fucking head in. You know, that is your job. It's just to wield a sword, to axe your enemy, and there's no other way to say it. So, you know, there's all the other things along with that, but at the end of the day, that is what you are training for, is to do damage on behalf of this country for X, Y, and Z.